Tuesday. It isn't a Thursday. It's Friday night knockouts and 3 counts. But before we get to that, I got to tell you about the fine sponsors that we got from the homies over at Potter's Tree Service. If you are in the need for tree trimming, tree removal, walnut logging, lot clearing, all those things and more, Potter's Tree Service has got you covered. But hey, I can show you a lot better than I can tell you. So check out this video from our fine sponsors and make sure you stay tuned to check out our show. As we get started, let's go. Enjoy the show.
This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Rock, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
And just like that, it's a Friday, and we have survived the first snowstorm of Michigan in 2024. I still hate that shit, even though I've lived here my whole life, but we're making it. It's a Friday night edition of Knockouts and 3 Counts, and we got a first-time guest. We've got the debut of our guy, Mace. We going by Mace, or we're going by Mason Williams here?
My friends can call me Mace. You can call me Mace.
All right, I appreciate it, my man. J-Bone already up in the comments. I see you. Shout out to our sponsors, Potter's Tree Service. I see you guys in the comments. What up, though, Bree? What up, J-Bone? All you guys. We got a lot to talk about, man. So, first of all, thanks for coming to the show. We were talking about this a little bit before we went live. It's ironic that we're getting to do this show because the last time I got to talk to you in person was the show that was here in Royal Oak when you had so many of your family here back in the NXT days. So before we get to what you got going on after WWE, your time in WWE and all those things, I've done my research, man. And I know that you were used to play football and all those things, but you got to tell me, how does a guy that has such a run in the NFL, like last week's past guest, AJ Francis, how did you find your way to wrestling, man? Were you always a wrestling guy? Was it one of those things you played football and you were like, you know what, I could do this? Or did you have the bug already?
Yeah, man, I was more of a wrestling fan than I ever was a football fan, honestly. Football was in my blood. My dad, he's actually out there right now. He was a pro football player for 11 years before me. So football was just something I always did. I was good at it, and it got me into the NFL. But my plan was always to play football for as long as I could and then switch career paths because I was always such a big wrestling fan. And I was like, man, I should be perfect for this, right? So I got right into it as soon as I was done playing football. I hit up Booker T at Reality or Wrestling, where I'm going to be tomorrow.
I was going to bring that up.
Yep, and I said, hey, can you train me? I got a tryout in a couple of months, and I don't want to look like a lummox. So you got me right, and here I am. It's almost 10 years in now, and I've been wrestling.
I love it. So you got to tell me, who were your guys coming up?
In wrestling? So I was funny story. When I got into wrestling, I started I just wanted all of it, right? So like I watched WWE, obviously I watched Raw and SmackDown, I watched TNA, and so I set my TiVo at the time to just record anything that had the word wrestling in it. And I got
nice.
And I got really big into AAA. It was on Telemundo on Saturday mornings, and it would record it for me. And by the time I got home from football practice or football weigh-ins or whatever it was, I'd come back and I'd watch AAA. So I was really big into like that era of 2005 AAA guys. Your freaking Charlie Mansons. I always bark out with a lot of the lucha guys at the Performance Center when I was there about those guys because they knew all those guys. They wrestled with those guys.
That's awesome to hear that you had to run
a full library, like a full library just from TiVo, dude.
Yeah, no, TiVo got me. I had like a freaking archive basically, and I never deleted anything because I always wanted to go back and watch matches. So it was actually really cool because I learned how to wrestle in Texas. So I learned how to, arm drag the wrong way and all the lucha style stuff. So it was cool.
So that brings up as good a question as any, man. Before we get into your time in WWE and stuff like that, you talked about training at Reality of Wrestling with Booker T. That's down in Texas. I know there's a lot of lucha down there. We got to do a lot of stuff in Texas during the pandemic because there wasn't anything going on. Like we were talking about up here, man, like, there wasn't really any wrestling, and it wasn't all because of snow. Texas was really the only place where you were really able to do anything during the pandemic. Talk to me about how much of a help that was for you that you got to train before you went to WWE, because now in WWE, it seems like we're seeing so many of these NIL deal athletes and college athletes, whether it's cheerleaders, football players, we've seen ex-fighters and all those things. How much of a help was it for you to get to go somewhere like Reality of Wrestling before you got to WWE?
It was a massive deal for me, honestly, and I always recommend this when people are like, hey, what would you do to get into wrestling? Is to find a school like Reality Wrestling, to find a school with a credible trainer, a credible owner that can actually teach you the business and kind of give you a mindset for it. With the NIL deals, I think everything is about timing in wrestling, and if that's your timing that gets you into the WWE, that's great. But I think for me and my timing, because I had a little bit of a background, I did about a year back then. I think I trained with Booker for 3 months before my tryout. And then I basically stayed with him while I was waiting for the answer that was inevitably yes. And after that, you wait a little bit. So I was with Booker for about a year. I did about 10 shows with him. And I kind of it gave me, the foundation going forward. And I think that might have helped me in the environment at the time where NXT was so wrestling focused. It was very much more about the independent guys. And my minuscule independent career, I think, helped me a lot and kept me around.
Well,
I hear a lot of guys that go into wrestling, like especially guys like Booker T. Do you ever have a time where you were like, holy shit, that hurt? Maybe this isn't for me. Like your holy shit moment?
Nothing hurt me that bad. But when I first stopped playing football, I played football. I was drafted to the Houston Texans at 325 pounds. That was me at my heaviest. I was about 325 pounds. And I think I might have lost, when I first started wrestling, I maybe lost about 20 of that. So I was still well above 300. And in my first day, they're teaching me how to run the ropes. And Booker has like an old WCW ring, or he did at the time, with the little wire ropes with the hoses on it. And I was hitting those ropes really hard because I'm like, I'm an athlete. I'm going to go fast. I go fast. And the first time I run the ropes, they explained it to me. Thank God, put your arm over just in case it breaks. The rope snapped. The weld came off of the ring, and it shot across the room, hit somebody in the head, and I go tumbling out of the ring. So it was a moment where I was like, man, okay, I could die in here.
That's a big dude falling out of the ring, 300 pounds, 6'5", 6'6", dude.
Yeah,
that's a lot of weight free falling.
Dude, it's funny to hear that too, because our show also doubles as we cover combat sports and stuff. Like I mentioned before we went live, we will be on the commentary if you guys are here in Michigan for Lights Out 14 tomorrow on Spectation Sports. But with all that said, man, it's funny because we hear a lot of that. We just had Miranda Maverick from the UFC on the show. She was talking to us about how even though she was still signed to the UFC, as many people know, they're not always making as much money, on their way up in the first few fights in the UFC. So she was training to be a pro wrestler while she was fighting. And so I had to ask her, I was like, okay, so tell me the truth. You hear so many fighters talk the way they do about the switch from wrestling to fighting or vice versa. She's like, no, they really do get hurt. And that was the thing that helped me, was at least I had, control over my body more. So it made it easier to get used to taking the damage and things like that. But how much of a shock was that for you? I mean, coming from football, football is a complete contact sport. Obviously, all three of us have played as well. And it's like, with that said, is that something that helps when you're getting into wrestling, or is it still where you're hitting the mat and just like, shit, dude, this is not the ring that I thought it was?
There's nothing like taking a bump for nobody. There's nothing like those first couple of bumps you take, and there's no crowd reaction. It's just you and the ground, and you feel every ounce of it. But the question that obviously every professional wrestler is asked is it fake? And my answer to that is always, it's not fake. It's predetermined. You can't fake gravity. You can't fake a lot of the impact that we take. And I'm just getting back into the ring now, essentially, after 90 days plus however many days I was off TV before that. So it's almost I'm coming up on closer to a year of not being in ring, and my body's beat up already. I've got blisters on my chest from chops. My chest got soft. It's impactful, and it's real. It's real in its own way.
Well, that's the most underrated move in wrestling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Facts. I'm waiting for somebody to lose a nipple.
I'm telling you, it's coming. It's coming, man.
Especially if they fight Gunther. I got to talk to him in that Survivor Series press conference, and I was just hoping he wasn't going to chop me. So I'm just saying.
Oh, God. If that ever happens, can we please put that on the clip on the show, please?
I love how you always want me to take this thing. This guy still hasn't done his tequila shoey yet. The guy wants me to get chopped. The guy wouldn't try Miranda Maverick's pickles. What the fuck? Am I just the guinea pig?
Leader here, bro. If you're going to be the ring general here on the podcast, you're going to be the leader of this crew. You got to take all the hard shit. Wow, right?
This is some bullshit. You see that? Come on. You see this?
Lead your men. Take the chop. Take the chop.
We're supposed to be a team. I feel the team spirit here, you asshole.
I will feel bad for you later.
You'll feel bad for me later. Yeah, while you laugh at me in the process. But with that said, dude, talk to me a little bit about, you talked about training with Booker before you got to WWE. Talk to me about your run in NXT, because you got to come into NXT when we still had the black and gold version of NXT, which I feel like is so different from what we're seeing now. Although I would argue that what we're seeing now is the closest version to that we've seen in a while, with Shawn Michaels being at the helm of it now. Talk to me about your timing coming into NXT, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, just off your point, I think right now is a great mix of, the developmental. You've got a lot of young guys. You've got a lot of seasoned guys, and they're kind of working together. You've got some guys from the main roster that have come down, like Dijak, that's doing an excellent job all the time there. Right now, I think is really good for NXT. When I came to NXT, it was obviously great. Everybody loved black and gold NXT. But in terms of being what would have been an NIL type guy, a guy from another sport that's coming into NXT black and gold, that wasn't really what they were looking for at the time, unfortunately for me. So a lot of people didn't know who I was until I started doing commentary, but they didn't know that I had been at the Performance Center doing house shows, doing all. You saw me on a house show in NXT at that time, and I was doing that for 4 years. So I learned a lot. They have some of the best coaches in the world there, but unfortunately for me, kind of like the timing thing, it just wasn't a great time for me to be entering. I was able to parlay it just because I work really hard. And I snuck into Retribution, but I was, it was tough, and it's hard to be working that hard and not get the direct feedback of, oh yeah, like I said, taking a bump in front of nobody is very difficult. I was taking a lot of bumps for nobody for a very long time before I actually got to take bumps for people, but. I got to watch a lot of great matches. I got to work with a lot of really incredible people who are now, in AEW, on the main roster, all over the place, all kinds of big names. So it was a great experience at the end of the day.
You said you snuck into Retribution. What happened there?
I snuck into Retribution, and I'm gonna claim that on my tombstone because, as you know, when Retribution first happened, they had the little guys in the masks, right?
Mm.
And everybody on Twitter made fun of all the little guys on with the masks. So the next week they were like, surely we have some bigger guys. Get some bigger guys in the masks. So they put a couple of PC trainees, which was me. I think Zion Quinn was one of them at the time. Cal Bloom, what's his work name now? Von Wagner.
Okay.
Guys like that. Bigger body guys that were working at the PC put on the mask, and then we were starting to break stuff for a couple of weeks. A couple more weeks go by. I'm still one of the guys that are wearing the masks under there, and they start replacing people and they start shifting things around. And then after long enough, we took the masks off, and I was one of them that got the mask taken off, so I was stuck. I was called up. I scratched and clawed for that call up because I was not doing anything in WWE or in NXT at the time.
Dude, talk to me about that. Like, so often we see people get stuck, whether it's groups like Retribution, like you said, with guys like Dijak, who's a guy I've watched since his Ring of Honor days and all those things. You see people get into groups and, it's just a chance to get up to the main roster. Talk to me about what that's like when you're down there at NXT like that and you get an opportunity like Retribution. Why, people are so willing to jump at those things when from the outside you always hear fans say things along the like of, oh man, why would you want to be in a group like Retribution? But like you said, when you're down there for 4 years and not getting to wrestle in front of people like that, I mean, at the end of the day, getting to move up to the main roster is putting you on TV.
Yeah, it's not only is it putting it on TV, it's giving you an entirely new paycheck. But yeah, people at the time, and I thought it was so interesting, people didn't want in Retribution. There were certain people that they had slotted in it that said no. There were people that, because it was pretty rancid. It was a pretty rancid thing that we were all stuck in. So for a guy like me who didn't get a whole lot of opportunities and not a lot of opportunities to actually show what I could do, anything, I would just take it. That's why I did commentary. That's why I did Retribution. That's why I did Maximum Male Models. It was kind of the story of my career. Was anything that was given to me. I don't have the indie career to be able to say, oh, well, why don't you let me do that? Where, they let me be Ring of Honor champion or something. I couldn't do that. So I was very adamant about doing whatever was asked of me, being very agreeable, just so that I could get whatever opportunities I could.
When
Totally
you talk about
Go ahead.
when you talk about how the direction of the NXT has kind of changed over the last couple of years and how there's more athlete opportunities, like what you had basically brought up with yourself, how do you feel for the opportunities of these guys and gals that are now making their transition and stuff like that? Like you've seen a lot more, I feel like, success stories from these type of athletes, especially as of late, with like the likes of Lola Vince or whatever they're called.
Lola Vice, yeah.
And they're just doing a really good job of transitioning these athletes, I feel like, into potential NXT or WWE stars.
Yeah, by the time I was on the main roster, a couple years in, they had started I guess it was called the NXT 2.0 thing, where it was very much all athletes, and I was sitting there watching, and I was like, man, it's this close. I just missed it. But I think you do need the mix. You definitely do need the mix. You don't want the blind leading the blind by any means. But in terms of like, if you find a good athlete that even if they don't love the business initially, if they can learn to love the business, and if they can dedicate themselves to this new craft and approach it with an open mind, listen to everybody who has more experience and can offer better advice to them, there's obviously going to be some success stories, and I think you're going to see a lot of those coming out of this new NXT.
You talked about something that was brought up by one of our listeners, and we had listener questions on it. You talked about getting to do commentary on Monday Night Raw. First of all, talk to me about that. Did you enjoy commentary? Is that something that you could like see yourself doing when you're done wrestling? Number one. And number two, the question we got was, what are your thoughts on what happened with you and Brock Lesnar, and do you think there was a mismatch there?
So to answer your first question, I had no plan on ever doing commentary. When I started doing it, I learned to enjoy it. It's very hard. It's very difficult. And I have an immense amount of respect for anybody who's done it for a long time. Michael Cole, I will always say, is the GOAT because what you don't see when you're, or what you don't hear when you're listening to a commentator on TV is that commentator is one, watching the program on a tiny little TV set. They've got 5 voices in their ear, some of them meaner than others. And it's so much going on. And then you are talking for 3 hours and 3.5 hours for me at that point. So it's a very difficult job. Of course, I think it involves a lot less bumps. So when I can no longer bump, I absolutely think that is a great opportunity to stay in the wrestling business. But yeah, I ended up falling into that because my friend, comedian John LaQuasto, check out his YouTube special. Look him up. He's great. He was there doing commentary at the Performance Center, and he didn't have anybody to bounce off of. So I was a friend of his. So he was like, hey, come in the booth. We'll call some matches. One of those matches gets to Connecticut, and Paul Heyman, who was becoming the showrunner for Monday Night Raw, and at the time they were trying to revamp everything, hears it, and he's like, who's that other guy? Which I always felt really bad about because I was like, oh, my buddy is right here. But he's like, who's that guy? And he wanted me to be one of the new voices for Monday Night Raw. I got ready for it in about 3 weeks, and then I was suddenly thrust into that position. I actually bonded with Renee Young at the time because she was also thrust into the main commentary position at the same, not at the same time, but in a similar scenario. But yeah, it happened really quick, and it ended really quick because, as you said, they booked the moment where I stood up to Brock Lesnar. Vince saw me looking down at Brock Lesnar, and he was like, why is he on commentary? And then that was it. I've heard all kinds of things about whether or not they wanted to go into the direction of actually transitioning that into like a match or something, because a match with Brock would have completely made my career in a completely different way. But yeah, I think they thought it would be too confusing because I wasn't established as a wrestler on NXT before. But it was an experience, and I learned a new skill that I can definitely go back to one day.
Not to mention, it's a select few that actually can look down at Brock Lesnar, right? That dude's
Yeah.
freaking huge.
I mean, I think that was the realization.
You got to be like the Undertaker, Khali or something. Somebody like that.
Yeah.
That's funny. So with that being said, and talking about we've talked about doing commentary, we've talked about Retribution, we've got to talk about NXT, but you got to tell me, Maximum Male Models, bro. How was that presented to you guys? And before we get into your thoughts on the run, what were your initial thoughts when they brought that to you guys? Was it another one of those situations where, like you said, where it's like, you know what, dude, it's an opportunity, we're gonna do whatever? But what was your first thought, and what was Mansoor's thoughts with that?
That's exactly what it was. They approached me first because I had actually been off TV for a bit. They split up me and T-Bar, Dijak, and I was on SmackDown, and I was doing nothing. I was sitting at home. And over the course of like 6 months, me and Creative were going back and forth. They were coming up with pitches for me, and I was like, great. At one point, they wanted me to be like Mace the Executioner, and I was like, cool. And then they were like, we're going to go in a different direction. It's a little too close to Retribution. I was like, okay, cool. And then they wanted to do Mace the Mercenary, and I was going to be like a Blade Runner guy on a motorcycle, and they made like all of these things. There's concept art. There's like logo pitches, like all kinds of stuff that they had made. And I was like, great, let's do it. And one day I get a call from my writer at the time, and he says, hey, we need you at SmackDown this week. I was like, great, are we doing the mercenary thing? And he was like, no. I was like, but Vince has an idea.
Oh, no.
I was like,
Oh, boy.
all right, what is it? He says, Vince wants you to be a male model. I was like, cool. He wants you to do it with Mansoor. Even better. Let's rock and roll. Like I showed up. They asked me if I could wrestle in a suit. And my first dark matches, I was wrestling in a full suit, which was miserable. But it kind of like I said, it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to get back on the road, to get back on TV. So of course I was just going to do everything to make it work. And because I was doing it with Mansoor, who they had no idea that we're best friends. We go on family vacations together. It was just two good friends traveling the world and making the most out of whatever scenario we could make. So it was a lot of fun. I love that run.
Well, clearly,
what a transition though from Retribution to Maximum Male Models. So that's like
Nobody can say that I don't have range.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest range possible right there.
Who's
right?
got range like Mace? Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Keep that one in the money bank for once you get out there on the indies, man. With that said, we got to talk about that. Before we get off the Maximum Male Model thing, you know, we've seen the rise of LA Knight. What were your thoughts when they had LA Knight paired up with you guys?
So when they told us that they were going to have LA Knight, who we knew was LA Knight from NXT, he was going to be Max Dupree, and he was going to be our manager. Our first thought was, surely you're talking about Rob Stone, right? Like that seems like a Rob Stone role. No, they were talking about Max Dupree, and they were talking about LA Knight. And to his credit, he approached it with every bit of gusto that we approached it with, and he tried his best. It was so far out there, clearly. My daughter is trying to give me a bracelet.
It's all good.
All right.
Just give it to me. You want to give it to me? I can't hear you. You can talk. Oh. Hold on. Let me finish this. Okay, we'll fix it. Yeah, he was. He's miscast. It was a tough spot for him, and it was really tough for him because Vince was on him about it. Vince was really heavily on him about like every segment he was in, and we'd come to the back. And Vince, who was just enamored with our modeling, was like, "You boys were incredible. You guys were great." And then Ricker would come back, and he'd be like, "What? You couldn't remember your lines? You suck." Like it was brutal, and we felt for him. It was a really tough scenario for him to be in.
So tell me, you know, about the end of that, because I've heard Mansoor say in other interviews that he knew, like, once Vince was gone, he knew it was trouble for you guys, because that was like one of his creations. Did you feel that at all? Like once they kind of said that like Vince was kind of on his way out, was that the thing for you as well? Like, you know, you kind of knew like when that happened, you kind of saw the writing on the wall.
So, as I said, we were never particularly pushed in any scenario. We were always just taking whatever scraps we were given. So for 2 weeks, Vince was coming out of the catacombs to make sure our modeling segments were perfect. They were clearing the stage. They were clearing the bowl for us. We looked at each other and we were like, I can't believe they're doing this for us. This is crazy. And all of a sudden, for 2 weeks, we were Vince's guys. And 2 weeks later, we're sitting in Boston, and we're sitting at it's not the Fleet Center anymore, is it? We're sitting in the
Garden.
TD Garden.
The Garden, and we all get a text from Vince, and Vince says, "I'm retiring." And I'm like, man, we got to be the most unlucky guys in the history of ever, because we've never been pushed in our lives. We're finally getting a push. If we could have maintained that for 3 months, we would have been set for life.
Yeah.
But the most unprecedented thing in all of sports entertainment history, Vince McMahon is no longer running WWE, happened under our push. Our push is ruined by this. We looked at each other and we were like, we're done. It's over. We assume we're fired. We were not fired until a year and a half later, because we are scratch and claw friggin' fighters about everything. But once LA Knight becomes LA Knight again, we're off TV. We go off and we say, well, let's go do a YouTube show, because we're not going to sit home and collect a check. Let's just show everybody that we can be entertaining. We'll do it ourselves. We do the YouTube show. It's a massive success. It goes viral every week. And all of a sudden we get a call and they're like, hey, that YouTube show you guys were doing, just do it on Raw now. And so all of a sudden it was like, all right, we're back. We're so back, baby.
We got it.
Back like we never left. Talk to me about that. Now that you guys are out on the indies, man. You know, I know you guys are still doing your stream and you guys are still keeping up with everything. As you guys kind of transition to life after WWE, how much of a help has the YouTube show been for you guys? And tell anybody who hasn't got to check it out yet what they're missing.
It's been massive for us. If you haven't seen it, you can watch us on Twitch. We stream at least twice a week, every week at twitch.tv/greatblackotaku. The clips and the stream archives go up on YouTube, youtube.com/theinsiderstv. And if you want to see the best parts, you can check us out on TikTok and Instagram at The Insiders TV. That was so big for us because the day we got fired, I text Manny and I'm like, hey, you feeling bad? And I'm like, he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you want to stream tonight? And we go straight into the day we got fired. We do a live stream. We do a huge number. And the thing with the 90 days post release is, you know, it's kind of designed to completely curtail all momentum that you had from being on TV. And we weren't on TV anyway. But that's what allowed us to maintain some kind of relevance, some kind of people were talking about us more honestly than when we were actually wrestling, which was more like such a shot in our arms because we were like, man, when we just do whatever we want on our own, we're great. Everybody likes us. So that allowed us to parlay that into our DPW debut a few months later. And it's been momentum ever since, and we're so booked and blessed for the first 3 months of the year, and it's great.
Well, talking about DPW, J-Bone, that was something you wanted to ask about, I know.
Yeah, so in the promo at DPW, you guys mentioned you guys like to break the rules. So did you actually come back at 81 days, or did you actually hit the 90-day clause?
It wasn't 90 days.
It wasn't 90 days.
It wasn't 90 days. We came back early.
Okay, that's what. Yeah, I've seen the
fuck
promo, and I was like, all right. I like the promo. He goes, he said we don't follow the rules. He walks out a door that says not an exit.
We don't follow the
okay,
rules. You know, we're just a couple of outlaws, 6-shooters, badasses. You know,
let's go. I think
it's good for our image. I think it's good for our image that we don't listen to corporate contracts. You know,
yeah. Rules are made to be broken, as they say.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Hey, man, I love it. And Deadlock Pro is one that we've been seeing a lot of waves from ever since. They haven't even been around that long. And for an indie promotion, dude, I'm seeing them pop up everywhere. We were actually just talking to them. I was anyway, talking to them about bringing Calvin Tankman in. So like I say, man, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about Deadlock Pro. So with that said, as you guys go out onto the indies and start life after WWE, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to do? Do you plan on like staying a tag with you and Mansoor? Because I know, like you mentioned at the top of the show, you're going to be at Reality of Wrestling tomorrow, or is it something you want to have like a mix of both? What's the plan for you post WWE?
The beauty of not being in WWE is just that we can do whatever we want. We've got indie dates, we've got tag dates, we've got singles dates. We can, my goal is to actually wrestle for once, actually have matches that people will get to see that go longer than 5 minutes. Nobody's ever seen me do that. Mansoor's goal is to get out and prove that he can be more than what he's been allowed to be on TV. Even the first time he showed up and he gets a microphone in his hand and it goes completely viral because he's always been one of the best talkers in the company, but nobody would know that. So I guess it's like, it sounds bitter to call it a revenge tour, but it's just an opportunity now that we have our own spotlight to become the belle at the ball, to become the one that people want to come and grab. We didn't have any when I got signed to WWE, when he got signed to WWE, there was no thought in our heads that we would say, no, we'll play the field. Now we want to become the guys that can play the field. And, we're doing tag team stuff because we were a good tag team. And we had a lot of good matches that a lot of people didn't see at house shows. And it's kind of it's a tour of proving people wrong and proving that, we can be entertaining and we can be in that next echelon of wrestler and character.
To go off of that, something as far as Mansoor goes that always stuck out to me is, like you said, you guys were always scratching and clawing. But if you look at like the matches when he would be on like the Saudi shows and stuff, obviously with his nationality and all that stuff, fucking huge star over there. Like he goes over there, crowd goes nuts and all that stuff. So when you guys are back to doing what you're doing with Maximum Male Models, what do you feel like? I mean, obviously it's something that you'd have to ask him, but being around him, what was the mindset like for Mansoor as well? Because that's got to be a hell of a shock. You go back to your home country and you get to do these shows, and it's like you're a huge star over there, because we all know the Saudi shows were like mini WrestleManias pretty much. And then you go from that to just going back to what they've got you doing on Raw and SmackDown, like you said, where it's kind of just picking up the scraps. Did he ever talk to you much about that? Because like that's crazy to watch, like the parallels, how in one place you could be like this, and then when you come back to the States, you got to go right back down to where you were at.
Not to put words in his mouth, but he's always told me that the Maximum Male Model thing was a chance for him to show that he could be more than just the Saudi guy, right? Because the Saudi guy could have been literally anybody from Saudi. They didn't know that he could wrestle when they signed him. They would have done it with whatever the best guy from from his tryout was. So the ability to go out there and prove that he could do something in another direction that doesn't have the same ceiling as you only get to wrestle once a year at the Saudi shows was an immense boon for him. And I know, like I said, we loved our Maximum Male Models run. But now, because people know us from that, we're able to surprise them even more because people have seen us and they're going to be able to see us in a different light.
Speaking of seeing people in a different light, something tells me that we might see one of our other past guests who's also going to be on the Battle Rumble with you in Tampa, alongside our buddy Megaran. We've been getting a lot of questions with the launch of TNA coming back. What are your thoughts on the return of TNA, and is that somewhere that you could see you or both of you guys popping up? As that was another question we got, is could we see you guys pop over in TNA?
So like I said, when I first got into wrestling, I became an all-consuming black hole of all things wrestling. Me and Mansoor's favorite time in wrestling was TNA from the years of 2005 to 2010. That's our attitude era. Okay. All those guys that are now producers at WWE, we would just mark out over all the stuff they used to do. So spiritually, we've always felt like TNA guys, despite the fact that we have nothing to do with that company. If the timing is right and everything's right, we would love to do that. We would love to go anywhere. But I think the biggest thing is, because we have this freedom, we're not in a super big hurry to lose that freedom just yet. Obviously, if the right offer comes at the right time, we got to do it. We got kids, I gotta make a living. But at the same time, we're very happy to just be wild cowboys that break the rules, break our 90-day compete clauses.
I think it's a good time to really, like you said earlier, show your range, man. You have the freedom to kind of go out there and show your art in your way. And who knows what's going to catch and who's going to see what. So,
right.
Great opportunity. We just got to make the best of it, like you said.
And with that many years of experience under your belt and not really having that much, I guess, tape on you, you can really expose yourself to a lot of these wrestling fans as one of these guys to really pay attention to.
Right. And it's funny that you say it with years. I did a show in New York last week, and it was a fatal 5-way. And I'm in the match, and I'm talking to the guys in the match, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, how old are you guys? I'm 32. I'm a spring chicken in WWE right now. 32 is very young for a man on the main roster. But I'm talking to these guys, and the oldest one is 25. The other ones are 21, 22, and 23. And I'm like, I'm the vet. I'm the old vet. Yeah, like what happened? It blew my mind. It was and it's what was really cool was just because I just wanted to listen. Like I wanted to see what the kids were doing, what what the next generation were trying to come up and how they were putting together matches. And it was fascinating to me because I've been in this WWE bubble for so long to go outside and see. It's like these guys could be the WWE superstars. They could be in NXT in the next couple of years. So it's almost like getting your ear back to the ground. Like you start getting a feel for what the pulse of wrestling is again. And I think right now on the independents, it's set for like a really big resurgence. It took a long time from COVID between AEW and NXT scooping up all the indie talent. I think it took the indies a long time to recover from that, and I think we're right at the precipice of a big boom again because the business is doing so well in every aspect.
With that said, how much while you were in WWE and as you knowing that you were getting ready to come out like this, how much were you keeping up on the indies? And if so, like, is there like a hit list of places you want to go to, or how much were you able to really keep up on what was going on outside of WWE before you got thrust back out onto the indies? Or was it something where, obviously things didn't work out the way you wanted in WWE, and it's like, okay, now I got to like re-ingratiate myself with what's going on the scene?
We could see the writing on the wall for a while. So, and you can't miss if you're on the internet and you're watching wrestling in any capacity. You know what Matt Cardona is doing on the indies. You know what GCW is doing, what DPW, the come up of DPW. Not to toot our own horn, but that Reality of Wrestling is doing it at a level that's, like television quality. So what's been great is we're working all those places. We're doing DPW, we're doing GCW, we're doing all of those things. And we get to be a part of these great locker rooms with all these great guys that are young, hungry, excited, and just, ready to do something that people haven't seen yet.
All right,
and I want to go all over the world. I want to go to Mexico. I want to go to Japan. I couldn't do all that in WWE.
Facts.
I want to go all over the place.
Yeah,
and we are.
You have like a hit list? Do you have a hit list out there on the indies that the guys you want to step in the ring with?
So when we did the DPW show, we were there, and the Motor City Machine Guns won their tag team titles. And as the TNA souls that we are, we realized that we are in the same locker room, in the same division as the Motor City Machine Guns. We want nothing more than to face the Motor City Machine Guns in a DPW ring, and we cannot wait. That match is going to be amazing because we're going to do everything to make sure that it is.
I love that. I've been a Motor City Machine Guns fan since the old Fox Sports Detroit.
Oh yeah,
days
you
when
guys.
TNA first came out, dog. I can't.
How could you not be?
I mean, see, there you go. Already in the comments. Yes, that would be a banger match. I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. I'm partial to anything Motor City Machine Guns, but hearing everything we've heard so far, I feel like that match has got banger written all over it. Well, J-Bone, we're about to get up your neck of the woods. As anybody that knows our show and follows our show knows that J-Bone also has the J-Bone Show, which is all centered around hip-hop. And it's funny, and the timing couldn't be better as we head into Tampa for our homie Mega Ran's Battle Rumble that's coming out. We've got the Maximum Male Models, Mace and Mansoor coming through.
We're not rapping. We're not rapping.
Oh, damn it, you beat me to it. Man, I wanted to see if you were going to get in the battle, bro.
We can't get in the battle. We got actual wrestle rappers in there. We got, Top Dollar is going to be there. We can't compete. My rap taste is so much more eclectic and not suited for a battle rap scenario.
So tell us about some of the list.
Yeah.
Who do I like? Well, my all-time favorite is MF Doom. I'm a big MF Doom guy.
Okay.
I grew up on him from when he was on Adult Swim, and coming up as a kid in the Bling era. That was like my first experience as something that wasn't like the big ludicrous type, loud. It was just different, and I really vibed with it all along. Me and Mansoor, we actually just went to a Death Grips concert a couple of months ago, who we also really love. We're very big fans of them. That's our theme song for DPW is I've Seen Footage. Yeah, so I mean, I like all kinds of music from all over the place, but yeah, those are two of my faves.
Definitely can get down with that.
I do a battle rap though. It's not bad.
maybe
It's not battle
maybe
rap
if the night
stuff.
calls for it.
Yep. Your range, I guess we could try, right?
Yeah, if I could do that, then I'm the Mick Foley of jobbers at that point.
There you go.
So since you're not competing in the battle rap, you got to tell me, do you have a favorite for who's going to win when we get down to Tampa?
Rand's great, man. I've seen Rand live at conventions. I've known Rand for a long time. He is incredible, and I've seen him do his act when he's going off the top and he's just rapping about things in the crowd. Unbelievable, like unbelievable talent, and he's a teacher. Like, who does that?
Yeah, dude,
Talk
I've
about
got nothing.
range, right?
Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
nothing but good things to say with Rand. It's ironic. We've told this story on the show, but the whole reason why Rand is such one of the homies, dude, we met at StarCast years ago at this point, right after he had performed at MSG for the G1 Supercard. And now here we are years later, and we've been to 5, 6, 7 WrestleManias together at this point, too. So all the love for the homie Mega Rand. Can't wait to get down there
Rand
to
was even in a
Tampa.
battle royal last year. Remember that shit?
I know! What the fuck, man?
This dude's done it all, man. You name it.
Hey, Rand is down. Rand's
That's
about
the
that
homie.
action. Can't wait to get to Tampa out here. All right. So before we get off of wrestling, we've got this segment that we like to call locker room etiquette, but it's not what it sounds like. Usually you would think somebody's trying to pick and prod. See, our version of locker room etiquette, or what are some of your pet peeves? What are advice that you would give to somebody? We've gotten from the likes of Josh Briggs from NXT, bring your own bring your own wrist tape, bring your own squirt bottle, wash your balls, keep your baby mama out the locker room. Silas Young said don't ever get too comfortable. Ninja Max said never stop training. We keep going, but we've got quite the list. If you could add anything to said list, what would it be and why?
If you want to get along with everybody in the locker room on SmackDown or Raw, learn how to play Tekken.
Oh,
No shit. I like it.
You learn Tekken. If you go in and you learn Tekken and you're good at Tekken and you can beat an Uso, you are a made man.
oh boy.
So the Usos are the kings of the Tekken, huh?
The Usos are the kings of Tekken in the WWE locker room.
All right,
Dude,
I
I'm
like
gonna have
that
to
one.
tell Rand the next time he's around, you might have to challenge the Usos and see what's good out here. Video game extraordinaire. That was not what I was expecting. I love it.
Always come out of left field.
I love it, dude. See, that's what we like around here. We try to get you the questions that you don't get asked all the time, which I'm sure you probably haven't been asked this next one much because, like I mentioned at the top of the show, our show also doubles as a combat sports show. So you got to tell me, are you an MMA or a boxing guy at all? Do you like the combat sports? If so, who are some of the favorites?
It's not something that I've been exposed to a lot of. I've watched a lot of the big fights. I watched almost every fight that involved a professional wrestler. I've seen a lot of Brock fights. I obviously watched the CM Punk fights. But no, my biggest exposure in UFC is the video game. Because that's another game that we play a lot. We played a lot backstage. Is we just have bum fights in the backyard arena in the UFC video game, and we just do knockouts only.
It's like
Arcade
street beefs in
style.
UFC.
Yeah,
That's great.
Oh, dude,
Arcade
that's
style
awesome.
UFC, that was the best, dude.
yeah.
That was fun because like I'd get people over, like, you know, obviously some guys just ain't the best on the sticks when it comes to video games. You get that arcade style UFC going, you get a few drinks in you, these guys would be going nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Changed
It's
the whole
hypest
game.
thing to watch. Yeah.
Change the whole game.
All right, so we talked about your career in football, and as you can see by the shirt, it's "Let's Go Lions" in this bitch come this Sunday. So you got to tell me who's winning the Super Bowl, and it better be the Detroit Lions.
You can't say
I mean,
Houston. Like,
for you
man.
guys, it's the Detroit Lions for you guys. I have no dog in this fight. My brother is a very important scout for the New England Patriots, but they are not there. So I guess my next team after that, who is also having an excellent season this year, is my wife is from Baltimore. Her family are all big Ravens fans, and they're looking really good this year.
Yeah, that's a hard team to argue with right there.
You're not wrong at all.
Looking
As somebody-
scary, not gonna lie.
You know, it's like we might know something about that, being the fact that his brother just won us a damn national championship. We got the Natty in this joint too. We need to get a Natty and a Super Bowl, and then we need the Red Wings to go win the Stanley Cup, and all things will be good in Detroit land, because the Tigers aren't going to do that anytime soon. But
oh yeah, that's right. You guys did just win the national championship.
Yes, we did.
So,
I don't know if we're going to keep Harbaugh, but
here's some Michigan lore for you. Okay.
Okay.
So, like I said, my dad is from Flint. So my whole family, we grew up as big University of Michigan fans. It's the only other fight song I know. I went to the University of North Carolina, but my brother, when he graduates high school, he goes to Ohio State on a full ride scholarship. And that was the year that they won the national championship. They beat Michigan every year. And they have completely abandoned you guys. It's crazy. We're watching the national championship last week, and I'm like, why don't you want to beat the national champions next year? Like, what are you rooting against? You're from Michigan, Dad. I don't know why. what has happened to you? It's just full on Kool-Aid drinker.
Turncoat.
My house. Yeah.
That's the only acceptable excuse. If you have one of your own relatives, one of your own blood that you put through that school, and they offered a full ride scholarship to, I can't argue with that. If you're gonna jump sides, that's a good reason.
At least you're fair about it. You're fair about it. North Carolina, obviously Duke was our basketball rival. At the time, Duke wasn't very good at football, so like the rivalry wasn't really there for us. NC State was always more of a rival because we were kind of on the same level, and there was a lot of headbutting because there was kind of different cultures at the schools. But I never had that much vitriol for a rival school that you guys do for each other.
There's so much
I've been to the
hate
big
there.
game. Yeah, I've been to the big game. It's something else. It's a whole nother environment.
well, since you're going to the GCW scene, I mean, all you got to do is go around. I mean, they're not around GCW anymore, but all you got to do is go around a show where 440 is at, and you'll hear "fuck Ohio." So
Pretty
I mean,
much.
it just transcends.
It's always there.
Yeah, I can't say that I haven't gone to Cedar Point a few times and been like, "Fuck the Buckeyes" or the "fuck eyes" or whatever you want to call them. But you know, we rock blue and yellow out here, man. You know what it is. All right, well, since your brother's such a high-ranking scout for the Patriots, you got to tell me, man. Hell is frozen over. Belichick is out, and it looks like they got a new coach. What do you think?
Wild, man.
It's crazy. It's unprecedented. So my dad played for the Patriots. So I grew up in New England when the Patriots sucked. And then when I was in middle school, all of a sudden the Patriots were the greatest team in the world. So I've seen the entire spectrum, and we're back to where I was born, you know. But it's a great organization. If they, I don't know what the future holds for anybody involved, but it's always been a great organization, and they're always going to bounce back. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Yeah, man, it's crazy to see Belichick leaving the Patriots, because it's something I didn't ever think would happen until he retired. Because I don't know about y'all, but I watched the press conference when they announced that they were kind of parting ways, and I did not get the vibe from either him or Pete Carroll for the Seahawks that either one of them really want to be done coaching. So something tells me that I think we're going to be seeing Bill Belichick again soon, and
it's going to be weird too.
It will, dude.
Seeing him in different colors.
That first game when they play against each other, that's gonna be must see television. That's for sure.
Always fun.
Well, and the fact that him and Saban retired on the same
What if he
day?
goes to the Jets and coaches Aaron Rodgers? We're all screwed then. Great.
He's got to get Aaron Rodgers back first. So shut up.
God.
You shut up. Don't be putting any of that
That's
juju
another
on.
one I don't like to talk about. I don't like
wish
to give
that
him
evil
any
on me,
props.
Ricky Bobby.
Hell yeah, dude.
The Hail Mary, bro. I still have a bad taste in my mouth. The Hail Mary from Aaron Rodgers. Screw that guy.
Well, I mean, he was a Packer. Of course, screw that guy. But,
that guy.
you know, with all that said, man, before we let you get out of here, man, feel free to let everybody know where they can find you at social media, what you've got coming up. And I know you're going to be at Reality of Wrestling tomorrow, so let everybody know what you got coming on.
Yes, I'm going to be at Reality of Wrestling tomorrow in Houston, Texas. Make sure you come out if you're in the area. Next week, We've got our first tag match back on the Indies. That's at DPW. And then the week after that, we've got Effie's Big Gay Brunch GCW. So we're busy. We're going to be all over the country, all over the world in the next couple of months. And if you want to keep up with us, follow me on Twitter at Great Black Otaku, or X, formerly known as Twitter. And also, if you want to see us stream, we have very entertaining streams where we tell a lot of stories, kind of like the stories I told today. Twitch.tv/GreatBlackOtaku.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I can't wait to get to Tampa. We definitely got to have a drink or two when we get down there. It's going to be good times coming to Tampa. We got to do this again, man. Once y'all get cooking, man, we got to bring you back.
I'll give you an update show.
Hell yeah, man. You heard it here first. Well, until next time and in the in-between time, make sure you check out our sponsors at Potter's Tree Service. And like I said, if you're in the Michigan area and survive the snowstorm and want to just see somebody get their ass kicked, come check out Lights Out Championship 14. It'll be live on pay-per-view on Spectation Sports. They're not only giving me a mic this time, they're giving Corey a mic and J-Bone a mic. So commentary from Knockouts and 3 Counts. Make sure you check it out. Catch us cage side, and we will be back next week with Joe Galley from the NWA. Hit that subscribe button. Peace.